In the golden kingdom of Obanle, where palm trees brushed the sky and the rivers sang songs of peace, there lived a young prince named Ademide, born into a life of power, honor, and destiny. From the day he could walk, the kingdom had already chosen his path. He would rule after his father, King Obanle, marry a princess from a neighboring land, and continue the bloodline that had ruled for centuries. But deep inside, Ademide was different. He was not hungry for power or blinded by wealth. His heart longed for something the throne could never give: freedom. One afternoon, while the sun painted the earth gold, he disguised himself as a trader and wandered into the crowded marketplace. He wanted to see life beyond the palace gates, the laughter, the struggle, the heartbeat of his people. And that's when he saw her. A young slave girl named Abeni, fragile but fierce, was being punished by a master for dropping a clay pot. The crowd stood frozen as a man raised his whip again, but before it could fall, a voice thundered, "Stop!" The marketplace went silent. Ademide stepped forward, his disguise dusty but his eyes burning with quiet authority. He tossed a pouch of gold at the man's feet and said, "Her life is no longer yours." The crowd gasped. The master hesitated, then stepped aside. The girl fell to her knees, trembling. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. "Because no one deserves to live in chains," Ademide said softly. "You are free now." From that moment, Abeni's life changed, and so did his. Ademide brought her to the palace, giving her work in the royal gardens. Day after day, she sang to the flowers, whispered blessings to the earth, and filled the air with peace. The prince often found himself wandering to the gardens, watching her tend to the soil with a gentleness that seemed to heal the world around her. At first, they barely spoke, but slowly, their silences turned into conversations, their conversations into laughter, and their laughter into something deeper, something forbidden. Ademide saw in her what no crown could offer: truth, compassion, and courage. She treated him not as a prince, but as a man, and in her presence, he felt free. But whispers began to travel through the palace. Servants spoke in hushed voices, guards exchanged glances, and soon word reached the king himself. King Obanle was furious. He summoned his son to the throne room. The golden walls glimmered with ancestral masks and the spirits of kings past. The king's voice echoed like thunder. "My son, I hear you have fallen for a slave girl. Is this true?" Ademide bowed his head. "She is no slave. Father, I freed her." "You freed her?" the king roared. "And now you bring shame upon this throne by loving her? You will marry Princess Moreo of Ife as planned. That alliance is what keeps this kingdom strong." "I cannot marry for power," Ademide said quietly. "I can only marry for love." The king rose from his throne, his rage shaking the whole. "Then you are no son of mine." The wedding was arranged for dawn. Drummers rehearsed, servants prepared golden garments, and the kingdom celebrated the union that would never be. That night, as the moonlight rippled across the river, Ademide found Abeni waiting under the great baobab tree. She turned to him, her eyes filled with fear and sorrow. "They'll punish you if they see us together," she whispered. "I don't care," he said. "They can take everything from me, my crown, my title, my kingdom, but they can't take my heart." Abeni shook her head, tears glistening. "I was born a slave, Ademide. The world will never let us be." He took her hands gently. "Then let's build a new world." At dawn, the drums beat loudly across Obanle. The court gathered for the royal wedding. The bride arrived in shimmering silk, and the king waited proudly for his son. But the prince never came. In his chamber, the guards found a single royal ring and a note that read, "I would rather live in freedom with the one I love than rule a kingdom built on chains." The kingdom erupted in chaos. The king sent out riders every land, across mountains, through forests, beyond rivers, but the prince and Abeni were never found. Years passed. Some said the lovers crossed the desert and built a hidden village where everyone was equal. Others believed the gods took them away, turning them into two birds that still fly together at sunset. Old travelers spoke of a place beyond the hills called Isle of Ran, the land of love. A land ruled not by kings or warriors, but by kindness. A place where no man was born to serve and no woman was born to obey. King Obanle grew old, and as the fire of his anger faded, he sat beneath the baobab tree where his son once played and whispered, perhaps love was a greater crown all along. To this day, when the evening sun falls behind the baobab tree, people of Obanle say you can still see two birds circling the sky, one golden, one brown, flying side by side, free and eternal. And so, the story of Prince Ademide and Abeni lives on, a tale of love that defied power, a story that teaches one truth for all time, that a man who gives up his crown for love may lose a kingdom, but he gains his soul.